Okay. Hello, everyone. Glad to see so many people on tonight. My name is Anissa Umrani, and I serve on the Charis Circle Board of Directors. And it's my pleasure tonight to welcome you all to the virtual space of Charis Books and More. We are the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore, and we are gathered here tonight to welcome Wanda M. Morris in conversation with Joshilyn Jackson to celebrate the launch of Wanda's brand new novel, All Her Little Secrets. So I'm going to start by introducing our conversation partner, Joshilyn. She's a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of 10 novels, including Gods in Alabama, The Almost Sisters, Never Have I Ever, and this spring's thriller, Mother May Have. May I? Her books have been translated into more than a dozen languages. A former actor, Jackson is also an award-winning audiobook narrator. We are honored that she shares the hometown with Charis. She lives right here in Decatur, Georgia, with her husband and 2 kids. She serves on the board and works as a volunteer teacher for Reforming Arts. It's a nonprofit that's dedicated to bringing liberal arts higher education to Georgia prisons for prison-designated women. Thank you for being here, Joshilyn. We are also here to launch another hometown author, and we're so excited about it. Wanda Morris. Wanda Morris is a corporate attorney who has somehow managed to escape, and she's worked in legal departments for several Fortune 100 companies. She's an accomplished presenter and leader, and she's previously served as the president of the Georgia chapter of the Association of Corporate Counsel. And she's founder of the Women's Initiative, and it's an empowerment program for women in-house lawyers. She is an alumni of Yale's Writers Workshop, Robert McKee's Story Seminar, and she is a member of Sisters in Crime, Mystery Writers of America, and Crime Writers of Color. Morris is married, the mother of 3, and she lives right here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I know that we have a lot of friends and family in the audience tonight, so we want to make y'all help this chat feel like home. This is the kickoff party for All Her Little Secrets, and we know this book is only going to rise from here. We're all very excited, and if you haven't bought it already, then say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from, and if you want to, go ahead and put any questions that you have for Wanda in the Ask a Question box at the bottom center of your screen. So welcome, Wanda, welcome, Joshilyn, and it is truly an honor for Charis to help celebrate All Her Little Secrets. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anissa. Well, hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you, Wanda. Congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here with me, Joshilyn. This is such a treat.
I'm excited. We have so much to talk about, y'all. This book is so good. I see that your niece is here, Ariel. So she might have read the book already with that niece privilege, first read kind of situation. But this is your launch day. So for those who have not yet had the pleasure, can you tell us a little bit, just tell us what the book is about?
Sure. So All Her Little Secrets is the story of a Black female attorney who gets caught in a very dangerous conspiracy following the death of her boss. Ellice Littlejohn, the protagonist of the book, seemingly has everything going for her. She's got this great job. She's got this stunning wardrobe. She has this well-paying job. She goes to the office one morning for a meeting with her boss, and she finds him dead, a gunshot to the head. And instead of calling the authorities, she does the unthinkable. She actually walks away. And the reason why she walks away is because she has been harboring a cache of dark secrets of her own, including a small town past and a brother who has served some time on the other side of the law. Soon after her boss's death, she is promoted to replace him. And things take a turn because once she's in the executive suite, she uncovers some shady dealings, so to speak. Once she starts to dig into what's going on, all those secrets that she's been trying to keep under wraps start to creep to the surface. And so now she is in a race to protect her secrets, save her brother, and stop a conspiracy that's far more dangerous than she ever imagined.
I want to say that there's a little bit of irony in the title. She does not have a lot of these are not little secrets. There's some big old secrets coming in this book. And I just want to tell you guys, this is a keeper shelf book. You are going to want this one for yourself. So if you look right down where I'm pointing down at the bottom of the screen, there's a green button that says buy all her little secrets from Charis Books and More. And it's important to buy the book, obviously, but it's also really important to buy it from Charis because they are hosting this event for us and because they are a flagship feminist bookstore that can't be replaced or duplicated here in Atlanta. We need them. So I know that you are going to look, Christmas is coming. This is the book you're going to want to give for Christmas, y'all. You're going to need to get you should get 2 or 3. They're little, they're small. You should get a bunch and you should get them from Charis. Now I have to ask you, Wanda, we just listened to Anissa telling us sort of your bio. There seems to be some similarities between, where did this book come from? I mean, where is Wanda in this book?
Well, there are a few similarities. I really wanted to write about the types of characters that I didn't typically see in the thriller genre. And specifically, I'm talking about Black females who are strong and sophisticated and all those wonderful things that, Black women can be. But I never saw them in the thriller genre. So I set out to write one. And of course, you kind of write what you know. So my being a lawyer, that's kind of where I started. But I also was the genesis of the ideas in the book kind of came from some real life experiences. Specifically, I once worked for a company where everyone was considered family. Executive management called all the employees family. But unfortunately, they didn't treat everybody like family. And so I wanted to explore this theme about family, the family we choose and the family that chooses us in the book. And I also had an experience that stayed with me for a very long time that also worked its way into the book. Specifically, I worked in a company, this very same company, where someone died. And it wasn't sinister or anything like that. But if we were family, I was concerned about how quickly everybody went back to normal after this person died. And I thought, it rubbed me the wrong way and it stayed with me. And somehow that kind of worked its way into the book as well. So yeah, there's some things in there. Certainly my background as a lawyer informed a lot of the kind of day-to-day scenes within the legal department of the book where it takes place.
And that's a thing that gets repeated over and over again in the book. These corporate guys are saying, "Oh, we're family. Oh, we're family. We're just a family who sometimes gets murdered under really suspicious circumstances." Okay, one more thing I want to tell you guys is right down over in that corner, there's an ask a question button. I could talk to Wanda all night and probably will, but it will be more fun if you guys participate too. So hit that button whenever you think of something you want to ask and put the question in. And as we get close to the end, I'm going to start giving Wanda your questions instead of selfishly talking about all the stuff I want to talk about. If you have been lucky enough to read the book, just no spoilers, no spoilers.
No spoilers, please, no spoilers
today. So one of the things that's going on in the book that you learn very quickly, so this is not a spoiler, it's early on in the book. There are protesters outside this company. Tell me what's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So the company, Houghton Transportation Company, is like a kind of shipping, trucking kind of organization. And they have not necessarily come into the 21st century with everyone else. And they are sorely lacking in diversity. So in fact, Elise finds herself kind of the only one in a lot of these spaces within the legal department. And then when she moves up to the executive suite. And excuse me, There are protesters because, they're like, why don't you have any people of color working for the company? And the idea for including that in the book was to demonstrate that, he was an organization that just wasn't attuned. And how did that impact what goes on inside the company as well?
Yes. And one of the things that happens as we sort of move through, well, certainly not a normal day. I mean, one of the things you ask when you're writing a novel is, why today? Why does this story start today? Well, because your boss is dead in your office is a really good answer. Like, that is a bang up start. But as we sort of go through, like, she doesn't know he's dead, right? Because she turns around and just, and then comes back in again, like, oh, good morning, just got here. So part of the day is her going through a normal day, and then we see her like shopping with her friend, and there's like this pileup of microaggressions as we're going along. And we were talking about this on the phone the other day. I want you to, I don't want to tell your story, but I want you to tell it. But I don't know how to ask you to, except to say, tell the story that you told on the phone about the person asking you the question. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but
I was like, how did you come up with?
Oh, how did I come up with her character? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's easy enough. Really, Ellice Littlejohn is, like a lot of women in the workplace and just every day. I mean, she's smart, she's beautiful, she's talented, and she's also flawed. And so when I was writing the book, I kind of made her an amalgam of women that I've known in my life, women that I've worked with. And, some people have asked me who have read the book, because the book does deal with a lot of tough topics, including racism and sexism and gender discrimination and all sorts of things. And racial profiling. So
economic prejudice,
right.
Because of
economic disparity. And so it has a lot of really tough topics. And I was asked, well, did you kind of make a list and decide here are the topics that, I want to cover in this book? And I was like, no. I set out to write a story about a strong Black female. And here are the things that a strong Black female encounters in any number of situations on any number of days, whether she is trying to maneuver success within the halls of corporate America, or she's just trying to have brunch and go shopping with a girlfriend on a Sunday afternoon. And so it was this constant buildup of microaggressions and dismissals and malignments that, you stack up and you're like, yeah, I see that. That's every day for me and for lots of Black women. So I didn't set out to say, I'm going to write about all these topics. I set out to write about a Black woman. And here are the things that come as a result of that.
I think that one of the really cool things about this book is it really is a thriller and a mystery. There were some twists that I was just like jaw dropped over. And I'm hard. I mean, that's what I write twisty books. I see them coming. Oh, you got me. Which I love. I love that. So it's super fun. Like, this is a book you can take to the pool with a giant drink and have a great time. But it's also like, this is a book that that your book club would want to read. Like, there's a lot of stuff for you to talk about. So you're sort of skating this line between a serious book with a lot of meat in it that's also just like a ride. Was that craft? Was that a choice? What?
I think it was intentional. At least I set out, the book is told, let me back up. The book is told in dual timelines. So you get a sense of Ellice Littlejohn as a 14-year-old girl. And then you also have her kind of in this present day world. And what I wanted to do by doing that is I wanted to give a sense of this kind of pace that she is caught in this kind of nightmare with this murder and everything that's swirling on around her, which creates, I think, kind of the fast pace of the novel. But I also wanted to delve into her personality, like what makes a person see a dead body and choose to walk away. There's obviously something going on, right? And so once I kind of opened up her backstory to explore that, which I do in the timeline, the past timeline, as a 14-year-old girl, you start to see and understand why she is who she is in the present day. And what she comes to realize too, by the time you kind of go across the pages of the book, is she starts to realize, I am something other than this. And, but I have been, wearing these masks and these layers of, educational pedigree and fancy clothes and all these other things to give myself this appearance when in fact, maybe I didn't really need that at all. So it is an interesting story. I think it is again, it deals with some really deep topics. And my hope is that, as you say, book clubs will talk about it. The people will talk about it. They'll read this book and say, you know what? I never thought about it that way. Or, wow, is that the way that I have been operating in the world? And let me take a closer look at my behavior as well.
I love that. And also like too, I hope that this pandemic doesn't take away the opportunity for you to like do some book club visits. Like, one thing that people can do once you get your copy from Charis Books and More, you guys could actually set up like a book club talk like this again in about 6 weeks. Cause that's so fun. Like, are these people real to you? Do they, like Sam and Elise, are they real? It's for me to go to a book club is like, I know all these people and now I invented them, but then you're sitting down and talking with people who've actually met and interacted with them. They're such
it is interesting. I do feel like, think about it. Ellice Littlejohn has been rambling around up in my head for years now. Sam, Vera, Willow, all of them.
Oh, V. I love V.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You said earlier something that I want to go back to. You were talking about found family, and we're going to get to found family. There's one of my favorite elements of the book is there's a friendship in the book that I found really moving. But let's talk about Unfound Family. Let's talk about the family you get. Tell us a little bit, without spoiling, but tell us a little bit about Elise's background, especially V. Like without V, her life looks entirely different. And then she has this brother. Introduce the cast of the past.
Sure. So V, or Vera, is kind of like a substitute mother figure for her. So Ellice grew up in this small town, very impoverished. She was, living in this bleak poverty. And she meets this woman and, she not only takes her and her brother under her wing, but she kind of guides Ellice. And it is because of her that Ellice actually becomes the success that she is in the present day. And I based that character on, again, women I knew, my mom, my aunts, my grandmother, women who, cared and took care of people, whether they were related to them by blood or not. And that's kind of what V provided for these two kids who grew up in this really bleak situation.
She's my favorite. She's my favorite character.
Thank you. She was a really fun character to write because she too is very strong. She's tough as nails. And what I like about her most is she's looking out for women. She is, she is giving them, she is empowering women. And that was one of the things that, I intentionally set out to do, to write, strong women, however their journey may be. I mean, when you think about it, almost all of the women in the book are on some kind of journey, even like Willow, who is her white female colleague in the executive suite, is also having to maneuver and deal with these things as well. So, yeah, Vera is one of my favorite characters too. I like her, I like Sam, I like Juice.
I like Juice an inappropriate amount. Juice is Juice is a fella. Well, tell a little bit about Juice.
So, Ellice has a brother, Sam, and Juice is Sam's buddy, is his kind of best buddy. And he also has an attraction to Ellice. And the reason that I wrote Juice in the story is because I also wanted to deal with the issue of assumptions, because Ellice works in this corporate setting where everybody makes assumptions about her. And in fact, she turns around and she makes assumptions about other people and not realizing it until, Juice kind of points it up to her. But he was a fun character too. Yeah.
Yeah. Her brother has had, you think, you see him as a child and you see him as an adult. And one thing I love about all your characters is they just seem to be very whole people. You're not afraid to let them be flawed. Like you don't have these sort of perfect little characters who wander around doing everything right, and then these really bad, evil villains who don't have any dimension to them. They seem really real and they're layered. And I think it's a really, it's a neat thing how invested I was in these flawed people. Like they really do come through. Sam I loved that character. Was he difficult to write?
He was tough to write, and I'll tell you why. Sam was a character that, I set out when I wrote this book. There are 2 scenes in the book that never, ever changed. And Sam was a vital part of those scenes because I wanted to explore this issue of how you had this sibling relationship that grew up together, but their lives took different paths. And their lives took different paths because of opportunity. Ellice got an opportunity that Sam never did. And because he didn't get the same opportunity, his life was put on a trajectory where he was caught up in a legal system that is still unfair to Black and brown people. And so I wanted to explore what happens when you have just a regular, decent guy who gets caught up in the system, and what that impact looks like and is on the people who love him and care about him.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. So we have some questions piling up. I want to remind you guys to go ahead and do that. In just a few minutes, we're going to be moving on to that. But before we do, I saw on the Twitter that I follow you on the Twitter, and you guys, you should follow her on the Twitter. I know I'm old. I have to say the Twitter to irritate my teenage daughter. If you want to follow her on the Twitter, Wanda, what's the Twitter? What is the Twitter handle? Do you know?
I'm sorry, you're so funny. On Twitter, I'm WandaMo14. And on Instagram, WandaMo14 on Twitter. And on Instagram, I am WandaMo Writes.
There you go. And you can follow her and you'll know when events are happening and if there's some book club action you can get in on. But I saw you saying on the Twitter that this was a 13-year journey for this book and this day where your book is coming out. Take us through that journey. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I started this book back in 2008, and I wrote the first draft. I'd say I wrote probably about 70% of the book, because when I write, I don't always know how the book is going to end. So I wrote this book and then I put it away. I put the book away for 7 years because I convinced myself nobody is going to want to read a book about, this middle-aged woman, Black, who works with these really awful people. Like, who's going to want to read that? If you pick up a book, you pick up a book to escape. And, I don't think it's a spoiler to say I've created a world that's rather hellish. And so I didn't think that people would really want to read it. And so my own self-doubt made me put the book away. And then about 6 years ago, I was going through some health things and some challenges, and I got through it, but it made me kind of look at things differently. I started to think to myself, gosh, I work in this stressful job and, I'm taking care of family and all these things. What am I doing that gives me joy? What do I do that, makes my heart sing? And I've always loved to write. So I picked it back up about 6 years ago. And, with a fresh set of eyes, it looked really bad. I was like, oh, I see why you put it away. Yeesh. But this time I was committed to it. So I did everything that I needed to do. I learned the craft of writing. I learned about story structure and pacing and characterization. And then I joined a community of writers. And so I joined groups like Sisters in Crime and Crime Writers of Color and, fellow writers that lift me up because publishing is hard. I mean, I don't have to tell you this. It's hard. And there's so much rejection that you need a support system. And so I set out to do that. And I started sending out query letters, the first step to getting an agent so you can become traditionally published. And man, I just got a slew of rejections. It was just, some of them, they went into a black hole I never heard. Others, they sent the form letter almost as soon as I hit the send button. I got the rejection right back. And so I thought, gosh, will this ever happen? But I stayed at it. And eventually I went to a conference called Thriller Fest, which is held in New York City every year. And as part of the conference, you can participate in a pitch fest, what they call pitch fest. And so you sit across the table from an agent. And I had the good fortune to sit across from a very lovely woman who I adore. Her name is Lori Galvin. And I talked to her like I was just talking to a girlfriend about some really ugly people that did really ugly things. And I was like, oh. And she was very enthusiastic. She's like, oh, that sounds really good. Send me the book. And I sent her the book. And 24 hours later, she sent me an email back. And she said, I am loving the book. And we talked and she signed me up and she became my agent. And she gave me some notes. We went through that. I made some more, edits and revisions. And probably about 9 months later, we went out on submission. And 12 days after that, we were in auction. Yeah. And
delicious.
Yeah, it sounds like, this beautiful Cinderella story. And so, I caution people when you see all this stuff happening around this book, it was like years and tons of rejection in the making. And it did not happen overnight. There were lots and lots of tears involved. But here we are.
Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, I think that is, whenever you talk to writers who are emerging and who are just starting out and they want to be where you are, and maybe not 13 years, but realistically, probably going to be 13 years, y'all. That's how it works. Like, just to hear you be so open about that. And so you are going to get told no, and that's okay. And you just have to keep coming. I mean, when I first queried for agents, I think I sent out 167 queries. One yes. One yes.
Wow.
So, but I mean, that's all
you have me beat because I think I sent out near 100. And it's painful. But I also feel like books kind of come in their time, and I am so glad that we are now talking about issues of race and discrimination. And unfortunately, it took a man losing his life, George Floyd, that people kind of woke up and said, what is really happening here? And so, of course, I also, think that had a lot to do with people saying, maybe we ought to take a closer look at these issues.
Yeah, it's the right book at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it helps that it's just a really good story.
Oh.
Okay, so I want to just take a second and remind you guys, right here at the bottom, this is where you order your copy from Charis. So let's support our independent bookstores. And right over here is Ask a Question. It's getting close. I could talk to Wanda all night long. Wanda and I are both yucky ladies, but I want you guys to be involved and have a part of this too. So get your questions in there. We are going to go there pretty soon. I want to talk a little bit about female friendship, because it is sort of a submerged theme in the book that ties in this sort of contemporary way with like what's going on with V. There's a best friend in the book that I just love. Can you talk about that relationship a little bit?
Who's your best friend that you love in the book?
Grace.
Yeah. Grace is funny. Grace is actually very funny. And what do I say? Like, I think female friendship is so, so important. I think we need each other, don't you think? Like, we need to keep lifting and holding each other up. And, Elise, for all her flaws, realizes that, Grace has her back. And like, really has her back. And so, Elise is this type of person where she keeps everything so close to the vest, and she has these secrets. And doggone it, Grace always seems to just kind of get in there and get under that. And I think that's what a good girlfriend does for you, right? Just like, cut the crap. It's me. A couple times she calls Elise out when Elise tries to lie to her, all the stuff that you want your good girlfriends to do for you,
And yet still loves her at the end. You see why. I mean, you see why she still loves her, but like, that's what a good friend does. They can be like, no,
Exactly. And then, you have in, the past timeline, you have V, who's helping all the women in her community and, helping this little girl who, she kind of spots from across the street one day and, takes her under wing. And so like I said, I told someone, one of the early reviewers of the book, compared the book to John Grisham, which I think is a lovely compliment. Compared it to John Grisham's The Firm, I think it was, and said, this is a great legal thriller. And I was like, thank you. But I didn't set out to write a legal thriller. I set out to write women's stories. Like, this really is a story about a woman and kind of what happens to her in this journey. And then the other women who are around her and how they impact her journey as well. It really is a book about women and family.
I like that, like, the world of the book, like, there's a mirroring with your experience with these writers' organizations that you joined, where like you guys are kind of moving on this parallel journey where you're also a lawyer. So, but I mean, you're fictional lawyer, and your journey as a writer, you seem to have had that kind of backing, which I think, when you get those rejections, that really does make all
makes you strong. It does.
It makes
What's that saying? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'd say that too about rejection in the publishing world.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk a little bit about the cover. So because this is your first novel, And I mean, y'all, this is a rocking cover. How did this happen? Did you have any say in this? What did you think of it? I love it because, like, I don't know if you can see this, but like here's the past. There she is in her marriage, and then she just looks like a cool badass you would want to go to brunch with, like, for real. So talk to me about that. People love covers. Did you like it? I loved it. Like, I think it's a real.
Gosh, I love that cover so much. So as we were preparing to do the cover, my editor asked me, like, what kinds of covers do you like? What do you want to see on the cover? And, I was kind of a newbie, so I was kind of like, I don't know, make it pretty. But there were two things that I told her that I wanted specifically. I did want a Black woman on the cover. This book is about a Black woman. It is very much a story of the journey, whether it includes the good, bad, and otherwise. And so I wanted a Black woman on the cover. And I also wanted something that would depict this woman's journey. And so they initially sent me a couple, 3 or 4 covers. And before I could respond, my editor, came back and she's like, you know what, don't worry about those. I think we're going to go in a different direction. And I was like, okay, I'm cool. And about 2 weeks later, I am like doing laundry or something, and my phone buzzes. And I look down and it's a text from my agent. And she says, go check your email right now. And I'm like, oh God. So my first instinct is like,
panic.
Oh gosh, they made a mistake. They didn't mean to give me this book contract. They're canceling it. But I go and I check it. And I mean, when I opened up that email and that picture popped up, I was like, wow. I mean, it is everything that I asked for. I got the Black female, the strong Black female. I got the reference to the past. And I think I got more than that. I think it is a cover. When you look at the title and the font and everything, it's all kind of a little scratchy and a little imperfect, which is kind of like Ellice Littlejohn. And I thought, dang, they nailed it. So a huge kudos to Ploy Serpent, who is the art director at HarperCollins, and she designed that book cover. She is a genius. I love the cover.
I will give you that. I will just ratify that bill and we will send it all the way through. Okay, we're going to move and just do a few questions from the audience because they are interested and engaged, and I'm interested too to know this. Wanda, have you listened to the audiobook? How does it feel to have someone else reading your book? Do you like it?
Oh gosh, it's surreal. It is surreal. And I have listened to the audiobook. And I'm telling you, you gotta listen to it. The narrator is Susan Dalian, and she is an actress, and she is phenomenal. And so much so that I was listening to it, and I got so caught up. Where'd you go? Hello?
I'm just putting a link to help people find the audiobook and how they can buy it through Charis.
It's like, wait, did she leave?
I'm right here. I just want people to buy this audiobook through Charis. So you talk while I just get that link up for people.
Great. So anyway, that kind of threw me off.
Sorry.
I'm listening to the audiobook, and I got
for the actress. Tell her.
I got caught up in her voice. Like, her voice, she really captured Ellice and like what was in my head as I was writing the character. And so much so that in certain parts of the book, and you'll find this when you read it, like I would get to a certain part and I go, oh crap, what's going to happen? And then I'm like, oh shoot, I wrote it. I know it's going to happen. That's silly. What am I doing? But it just wraps you into this book and into this woman's story. And she's so good. So yeah, you'll love the audiobook. If you're into audiobooks, you'll love it.
I'm super into audiobooks, and I just want to take just a second and tell you about Libro FM. If you're an audiobook person, you don't have to get them through, Jeff Bezos. You can join Libro FM. It's the same price as other kind of subscription, and it works in the same way. Like it's your credits never die like that. And you can choose your independent bookstore. I would suggest Charis. And then you choose the book you want that month. I would suggest All Her Little Secrets. And then you're
commercials.
buying an audiobook through your local independent bookstore. So, and she is good. I always have to dip in. I think I read it with my eyes instead of listening to it because I wanted to read it early. But yeah, if you like audiobooks, this is a really good one. And that was Elizabeth Robertson who wanted to know that.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, it's Shakura asks, how long? Oh, did you go through a number of, well, you kind of started on talking about the drafts of this, but like when you went back and found that 75% of a book, how many times did you have to go through that and rewrite? Are you a writer or a rewriter?
Oh, that's a good question. I am probably a rewriter because I just kind of throw everything onto the page for the first draft. And so, Elise had a different name in that first draft. Halfway through, I changed to Elise. So I do that. I throw it all in, even if it doesn't make sense. That's why the first draft is such a mess. And then I rewrite because it's in the rewriting that I can go in and the characters, I start to kind of flesh out in my head. As far as the number of drafts, it is probably incalculable. I mean, I have written this book. No, in all seriousness, I have, because the book originally was written in third person. And I wrote the entire book in third person.
That's so surprising because it's such a voicey book.
Well, I learned that the hard way because I got so much rejection, and agents were telling me, she seems very distant. I just can't, I can't get into this character.
Oh, wow.
And so I stepped back and I went and I rewrote an entire book, and I wrote it in first person, which was actually good. Again, like I said, as I was going through this journey, I didn't know how to write a book when I first started. So I think that was part of my learning process, is I had to learn about like what would be the right POV, what would be the right point of view. And I think because of the issues that surround Elise, it definitely had to be a first person, because you really had to get in her head to understand what was going on at the time. So with the exception of a couple chapters, everything is written in first person. And so I went back and rewrote the whole book in first person, and still got a ton of rejection. And then because the book originally started out as just purely linear. And then I started thinking, gosh, how do I show people what is going on with her? And once I opened up her backstory and put in those Chillicothe scenes.
That's the name of the little town for people who don't know.
Yes, Chillicothe is the little town she grew up. That's the 14-year-old Elise. Once I did that, the story kind of opened up itself. And then you kind of saw all this Black female strength that she has. And then I rewrote that again before I pitched the last time, before Lori saw the book.
I tell you what, I think dual timelines are really tricky. Like a lot of times there's that thing where you just want to get back to this or that. And I think you've done an amazing job of like, they dovetail and they influence each other in ways that are real and have implications for both character and plot. But also they each have their own lines of tension and their own little cliffhangers. It's some just perfect dual timeline work. I love this book.
Thank you.
Okay.
If I could just add to that, to Shakura, anybody else who's out there and wants to write a book, write the book the way you want it. Because I was once in a workshop or a seminar or something, and the instructor said, never write books in dual timelines. They stink. People either love one or they love the other. They don't like both. Never do it. And for years, I followed his advice. And I'm glad I finally pitched that, because
I know people. I always say, like, people who are going to tell you how to write a book, they're just telling you how they write a book, or they're telling you the book they want to read. You got to. I agree with you. Write your heart. I want to skip down and go to Ricky Brody. Well, no, I don't. Well, we will get to that one. But oh, this is from Charis Books and More. Wants to know how you made the shift from attorney to author. What's one A to the next A? How, was that a big? Was it a paradigm shift?
I started writing this book as an author. It started writing this book as an attorney. So I was like learning how to write while I was still, doing my day job. And so I would, write every day. I would go over to the library right around the corner from my job, and I would write for an hour or so in the library in the same Carol every day. And if I was on a plane trip and had some time in the airport, some downtime, I was writing in, the airport. I was writing while I was sitting in, the parking lot waiting on my kid to get out of camp. So I just, once I became committed to it, when I picked it up that second time, I found the time to write. And that's hard. That's hard when you've got kids and a full-time job and all that other stuff. But
yes, Rachel Gervin was just asking that. She's saying, you did all of this writing while working full-time, raising a family, and volunteering. When did you write? I mean, did you just give up sleeping or eating or one of those dumb things that you don't really...
No, just wherever I could find snatches of time. I would do it. Weekends were big, particularly on Sunday, just.
And you love it.
Yeah. And you gotta love it. Yeah.
When you love it, it's like, those people who are working like 6 jobs and they have 18 kids, but they've never missed an episode of Survivor. Like, if you're passionate about it, you're obviously like, your heart is in this.
Yeah.
2 related questions from Deborah Godfrey and Ricky Brody. I'm going to give them both to you.
Deborah, that's my niece. Hey, Deborah.
Hi, Deborah. Deborah wants to know, when's the next book coming? Ricky wants to know if this is a series, if you're planning to revisit this main character. So when's the next book coming? What's it about? Is this going to be a series, or do you have another standalone? What are you doing?
Gosh, when's the next book coming out? You may have to ask my editor. My hope is that it's next year. I am working on final revisions to turn in the second book. Second book's a little different, but a thriller. It's still a thriller. And so, yeah, we'll see.
Okay. I'm going to add a question to this. Let me see if I can find it. So sorry. Julie says she loved your book, and good taste, Julie. She wants to know what you're reading now. And I want to build on that and say, what are you reading now? And what have you read that sort of influenced you as a writer? Like, what are you reading now? And what's your favorite kind of thing?
Gosh, what am I reading now? I had it sit here. It is right here. Excuse me. So I'm reading this really cool book by this guy named Alex Segura. It's called Secret Identity. And it is super cool because, I don't know if you can see it, it has actual graphics in it. And it is a murder mystery that takes place in the comic book industry back in the 70s. And it's a seriously cool concept. So I'm reading that right now. And what was the second part of the question?
What were your big influences? Like, what writers shaped your writing and make you,
Gosh, I love Zora Neale Hurston, Alice Walker, Attica Locke. I like William Landay and Joe Ide, and Alistair Burke, Karen Slaughter. Oh my gosh, Karen Slaughter. She's such a dear. I love her books. Yeah.
nice.
But yeah, those are the people that I really like. I like thrillers, but I kind of like them all. I like kind of slow burn mysteries as well. I do think I'm probably partial to the pacey, kind of fast paced thriller.
All right. think, we're almost out of time. So I'm going to ask you one more question and then I'm going to pitch it back and we will close this down. What has been your biggest, this is from Nancy Johnson, what has been your biggest OMG pinch me moment so far as an author?
Ooh, gosh. Hey, Nancy. Nancy is my buddy. I slipped into her DMs and introduced myself with her book. I was like, I love your book. Hey, Nancy. So, gosh, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been blessed because I've had a few. I guess when I got the email from my publicist, hey, Christina Joelle, I love you to death. I love my whole team. If I could stop for a minute, I love my whole team at William Morrow. I owe them everything. So Asante Simons, my editor, since we're almost out of time, Christina Joelle, my publicist, Ryan Shepard, and Caitlin Harry, my marketing team. I love you all. Lucia Macro, thank you for handing this book in, taking this book on and passing it through. And you all have been wonderful. So to answer your question, I think when I got Christina's email and she said, the Library Journal would like to feature you on the cover of its magazine. And I was like, what is even happening? What?
I hope you hear that because you look real good.
We had a few moments like that. Christina is like Santa Claus, she sends me another email and she's like, so Entertainment Weekly is going to do a 3-part serialization and include the first 3 chapters of your book. And I'm like, again, what is happening? I've been blessed. I really have. People have responded to this book so positively, and apparently it's resonated with folks. And I am grateful for that. It has not been an easy journey, but I don't take a minute of it for granted.
Oh, I love that. That is a great place to end. I want to remind you guys, this is not your last chance to order it from Charis Books and More. You can do that anytime, but you should just do it now. You want to press the green button or head over to LibreOfM and get the audiobook and pick Charis as your local independent. Wanda, thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so much fun.
Take it away anytime you like.
Okay, thank you so much, Wanda. We need to have you back again, as Joshilyn suggested to you, on a book club event. I'm very excited to read the book, and I am definitely clicking the turquoise button at the bottom. And Joshilyn, we should have you as our hype woman because
when I first moved to Atlanta, I lived within walking distance of Charis, and I sat reading like Stoner McTavish mysteries on your floor because I couldn't afford to let me.
Okay, so this is you're giving back. So anyway, thank you all both for a wonderful conversation. Wanda, we are honored to really help you kick off this process. I am so excited for you. And we want to encourage people to purchase the book here, to stay attuned, because we know that this book is going to just shoot up and be very well regarded everywhere. And if you have already ordered the book, we appreciate you. The book's on the way. And we want to thank you as well, Joshilyn, for helping out and moderating this event. So thank everyone so much, both who participated and to the author and interviewer as well.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, take care.
Thank you.